Mr. Kane sat next to me at that luncheon and spoke to me extensively. Mr. Kane was the keynote speaker at the luncheon. He was incredibly inspirational. While we were driving back to the hotel, he said that he would show me where the National Restaurant Association offices were. He parked the car down the block. I thought that we were going to go into the offices so that he could show me around. At that time, I had on a black pleated skirt, a suit jacket, and a blouse. He had on a suit with his shirt open. But instead of going into the offices, he suddenly reached over and he put his hand on my leg, under my skirt, and reached for my genitals. He also grabbed my head and brought it towards his crotch. I was very, very surprised and very shocked.
Just a minute, just 1 second.
I just had it done.
Those with glorious.
Weekend, I reread Dreams from My Father. This is a very special book. The senator has written two books, and you read this and you understand so much about him, and it's just a great read. So I've just sold a lot of copies.
Thank you so much.
I'll wait for my commission. So, just a quick question. You have said that Governor Palin is the greatest vice president in the history of the United States. Greater than John Adams, who became president, greater than Father George Bush, who became president, the greatest vice presidential candidate. That's not a little strong. Before you came out, maybe we shouldn't say this, but we thought you were very sexy looking.
Oh,
don't you think so?
The big point is she reformed government in Alaska. She freed Alaska. Really.
We are back with Democratic presidential candidate Senator Barack Obama. Senator, I want to know what you're going to do with my taxes, but I know what's going on over there, some canoodling. But Sherry,
that Governor Palin is going to reform you, the Senate?
One other thing, Barry, before we go into serious stuff.
Yes.
I understand that you're related to Brad Pitt in some way. I mean, you know, you used to be more of the maverick, then you sort of turned. I don't see the old John McCain who used to really buck the system as much. The same question. I want to know, how tough are you?
You know, I'm a pretty tough. I'm skinny, but I'm tough.
We know that those two ads are untrue. They're lies. And yet you, at the end of it, say, I approve these messages.
Did you say you wanted strict constitutionalists? Because
No, I want people who interpret the Constitution of the United States the way our founding fathers envisioned for them to do.
Should I be worried about being a slave, being returned to slavery? Because certain things happened in the Constitution that you had to change.
I just so appreciate you sharing your heart in the speech that you just gave, because I had my vote for Hillary, and as soon as I heard that speech, I changed it, and I want to leave the View to campaign for you.
In anything.
In the same way that after I beat John McCain, I trust that I'm going to be able to...
She said more than a decade ago she could end her then-husband's career with one interview. Since then, Marianne Gingrich has become Newt Gingrich's ex-wife, and she's now given at least 3 interviews that are personally and possibly politically damaging to him. Spoke with the program Nightline.
I said to him, Newt, we've been married a long time. And he said, yes, but you want me all to yourself. Callista doesn't care what I do.
What was he saying to you think?
He was asking to have an open marriage, and I refused.
Campaigning in South Carolina, Newt Gingrich was asked to respond.
Look, I'm not going to say anything about Marianne. My 2 daughters have already written to ABC complaining about this as tawdry and inappropriate.
A direct, fresh character attack on the Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to start with that this evening. As you know, your ex-wife gave an interview to ABC News and another interview at the Washington Post, and this story has now gone viral on the Internet. In it, she says that you came to her in 1999, at a time when you were having an affair. She says you asked her, sir, to enter into an open marriage. Would you like to take some time to respond to that?
No, but I will. I think the destructive, vicious, negative nature of much of the news media makes it harder to govern this country, harder to attract decent people to run for public office, and I am appalled that you would begin a presidential debate on a topic like that.
For the first time this morning, a Washington lobbyist linked romantically to Senator John McCain is speaking out. This news broke during the peak of Senator McCain's presidential campaign. Let's start with the question that everyone wants to hear you answer. Did you have an affair with Senator John McCain?
No, I did not. And 4 New York Times reporters, 2 editors, their entire institution, 200 people that they went out and sought to try and figure out if this was true or not, came back and said, there was no there.
So was there anything in your behavior towards him that could have given people that impression?
No, this all went back to one singular person, a political operative who had left the senator's campaign under acrimonious circumstances, and this is where everything, all roads lead back to him.
You're talking about John Weaver, who is the only source that is named in that New York Times article.
As a client, by whom was she referred?
She was referred to me by another attorney, and that is a very common practice in our firm.
Someone with ties to Jerry Brown?
Refer to us.
Someone with ties to Jerry Brown or any member of his campaign?
This is just a person who referred her to us, and we never comment on who refers cases to us.
Right, but the allegation is that it's a political smear, that it's a political connection. And so if you would just say that this person is not associated in any way with the Jerry Brown campaign, you could help put that to rest.
Megan, I've been practicing law for 35 years. I never, ever say who refers cases to us, whether it's an attorney or anyone else. In this case, I'll say it was an attorney, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to change our long-standing policy.
Yeah, but it's not a breach of privilege, and it's not a breach of that person's privacy to say yes or no, they're affiliated with the Jerry Brown campaign. And when you won't rule it out, it adds fuel to the fire that indeed this is a political smear by the Brown campaign, and they're using you and by extension your client as an instrument.
President Obama and Mitt Romney couldn't be farther apart on how they've handled the issue of marriage equality. ABC's Good Morning America aired their full interview with the president this morning.
You know, Malia and Sasha, they've got friends whose parents are same-sex couples. It wouldn't dawn on them that somehow their friends' parents would be treated differently.
Presidential candidate Mitt Romney accused of bullying a very vulnerable fellow student when he was in high school. 5 of Romney's former classmates have come forward to tell the same story, accusations creating a firestorm as Romney is forced to respond. And David Muir, who covers the Romney campaign, has been tracking this story all day. Fast-moving, David.
Very fast-moving, Diane. It comes just 24 hours, of course, after President Obama said he now supports gay marriage. So a lot of questions about the timing of this story, first reported in the Washington Post this morning. But when you read the details, these are grown men, a lawyer, a dentist, a former principal, who all went to school with Mitt Romney and remember more than just a prank. One of them telling us tonight this was supreme bullying. Mitt Romney today said he does not remember the incident.
Titled How the Liberal Old Media Plans to Cover the Last 2 Weeks of the Election. Article is written by Mark Halperin, the political director of ABC News and also the co-author of a brand new book called The Way to Win, Taking the White House in 2008. Mr. Halperin joins us now from New York. This is a very tough piece of analysis that you wrote. I'm surprised, I'm not stunned, because you are a gutsy guy. You have done this before. But let's walk through it. Who is the liberal old media?
Well, Bill, as you know, in this country, we've had these old news organizations, the major networks, ABC, where you used to work, the New York Times, the Washington Post. These organizations have been around a long time, and for 40 years, conservatives have looked with suspicion at them. I think we've got a chance in these last 2 weeks to prove to conservatives that we understand their grievances. We're going to try to do better, but these organizations still have incredible sway, and conservatives are certain that we're going to be out to get them. We've got to fix that.
Well, I think we've officially entered the realm of the absurd. The same New York Times that lionized Ted Kennedy, that endorsed Bill Clinton twice, is now going to try to shape public opinion on the issue of these types of interactions between Trump and various women over 3 decades, I guess. What's clear is that there's a divide in America, Maria. There's a divide about what the Constitution provides, what the role of the government is, how to turn this economy around, what it means to have an entire group of Americans distrust the police. And whether people get rid of Donald Trump, whether they defeat him or not, all those problems are going to be there on November 9th. They're still going to be there. And as far as I can tell, the New York Times and the Washington Post and most of the major networks are not interested in actually having a real debate on these issues, the actual issues that affect our children, that will affect our grandchildren, and that will affect our security, our safety, our economy. Those issues are generally swept to the side as the press runs to whatever victim will, share a story from years back.
Right.
And I think the country is being poorly served by a media that is distrusted, and the country has to decide. Are they going to allow the elite liberal media to decide this election, or are they going to decide the election on the issues and the records of both individuals, both in business and in politics? And I certainly hope it's the latter.
That's what